This is KGW News at noon.
Had you ever met a guy anything like Dan Brophy before you met him?
No. He was unique.
Nancy Crampton-Brophy takes the stand today during day 21 of her murder trial. Welcome to the news at noon. I'm Drew Carney. The local romance novelist is accused of shooting and killing her husband, Daniel Brophy, in June of 2018. While testifying today, Nancy described Daniel as a unique man. You heard her say that just a moment ago. She also described him as a man she loved. Nancy also spoke about their finances, saying they had to make several hard decisions to make ends meet. Nancy is still on the stand this afternoon. We're carrying the trial live right now on KGW.com. Here's a look at some other local headlines this afternoon. The first one is an update to a story we've been following since last night. A MAX train hit a pedestrian at about 9 p.m. at Northeast 82nd and Jonesmore Street. It was the second time in the span of 48 hours that a MAX train hit a pedestrian. The light rail station at 82nd and Jonesmore was closed while police investigated, but that station is now back open. Portland police say the person who was hit last night was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Tomorrow is primary day here in Oregon, and the biggest change with this year's election is the fact that you can drop your ballot in the mail on Election Day itself. As long as your ballot is postmarked on or before May 17th, again, that's tomorrow, it will count. As in years past, you can also drop off ballots at any county election site up until 8 o'clock on election night. As ballots are counted, our team will track the results. You can follow tomorrow's results at KGW.com, and you can also tune in to our 11 p.m. newscast tomorrow night for all the latest updates. And the last headline here is about last night's total lunar eclipse. In some spots around here, the clouds actually broke up just enough to give people a good look. A total lunar eclipse is when the moon slides through the shadow of the Earth. My friend Rod Hill taught me that. That's a look at some of our local headlines, and now we turn to the man himself, Rod Hill. So clearly, Rod, through those pictures that some of the viewers sent us, that moon looked really red last night.
Yeah, this was the full flower moon, and by the way, I have another shot. This is from Julie Castronova, and this was also taken down in Marion County in the Salem area. That reddish glow is because the only light that's hitting the moon at that point is from the sunrise and sunsets of Earth. So if you think about it, yeah, that's our typical kind of sunrise sunset glow, and that's what the moon was picking up. A lot of the area didn't really get a view. We didn't have that many photos from this. The eclipse started right about the time the moon was going up and the sun was coming down, and it was between about 9 and 10 o'clock last night. I know I looked outside about 9 at my house before I went to bed, and we were still pretty cloudy up in Clark County. But for those that saw it, beautiful sight. All right, what's going on? We have a little weak push of new air coming in. This is actually less humid air than we had over the weekend, and the little frontal boundary is triggering some scattered showers. These have been picking up in number. Longview, there's some showers up against the Cascades. This is all very weak stuff, mostly traceable amounts, but there's a very light shower. If it holds together, it could hit the Salmon Creek area in the next 5-10 minutes. The cloud deck overall is thin. You can see some breaks right there over downtown Portland. We're sitting at 60 degrees. We'll spend the afternoon in the 60s. I think once we get to 4 o'clock, the chance of even just a traceable shower comes to an end. We have a dry night tonight, a dry day tomorrow. We'll have that 7-day forecast coming up shortly.
All right, Rob, we'll check back in with you in about 12 minutes. Right now, though, we do want to get back to some of this afternoon's headlines. We have an update this afternoon on the mass shooting that happened over the weekend at a church in Southern California. Today, authorities booked and charged 68-year-old David Chow. He faces 1 count of murder and 5 counts of attempted murder. Authorities say Chow opened fire at the Geneva Presbyterian Church in Laguna Woods Sunday afternoon. 1 person died, 5 more are injured. Police say members of the congregation managed to grab Chow, take away his weapons, and tied him up with extension cords. There was also a deadly mass shooting in Buffalo, New York this weekend. The FBI is investigating that shooting as a hate crime. 13 people were shot at a grocery store there. 11 of them were black. KGW's Galen Etland takes a closer look now at these cases of violent extremism and what's being done about the issue here in Oregon.
The community of Buffalo, New York is mourning at least 10 people shot and killed Saturday at this grocery store.
It will be prosecuted as a hate crime.
Investigators say an 18-year-old gunman had an evil goal
of taking as many black lives as he possibly could.
Yes, sir.
I understand my charges.
The shooter traveled several hundred miles from home and posted a manifesto online before the shooting. He called himself a white supremacist and referenced other racial attacks.
Sharing his information, his ideas, his hatred online. That's what scares me, is how far this virus is now spreading and how quickly.
And it just seems to be escalating.
Professor Randall Blazek is chair of Oregon's Coalition Against Hate and studies extremist ideology.
And it's really frightening how we've seen the normalization of some of the rhetoric that drives white supremacist violence.
They will deny jobs to people who have the wrong skin color.
A repeated narrative of being pushed out,
Making white people feel like somehow the world is out to get them.
leading some to react in violence.
A sick, demented individual who has fueled a daily diet of hate.
And they believe that if they don't act now, that their country is going to go away. So there's this sort of ticking time bomb element to it.
A report from March about domestic terrorism and extremist attacks showed Oregon ranked the 6th highest in the nation for incidents between 2011 and 2020, making up 10% of all attacks in 2020 alone, despite Oregon ranking 27th in population. The state's audits director and the former U.S. attorney for Oregon both explained the problem.
We are one of only 16 states that do not have specific legislation criminalizing domestic terrorism.
People need to be held accountable, and if they know they're not going to be, well, we see what the result is.
Oregon has a history of extremism, from the Rajneesh poisoning of an entire county,
Our purpose
to the armed militia takeover at the Malheur Wildlife Refuge, and even more recent attacks on Portland's downtown Justice Center by the far left and attacks on Oregon's Capitol by the far right.
Breaking in, mother.
They see themselves as good people.
Blazek tracks extremists online and has a $750,000 grant for an anti-violence program called Cure PDX.
Violence can spread from person to person. So if we can find places to interrupt that spread by having people within communities to kind of know who's the most contagious.
The program aims to reach potential offenders and avoid racist attacks, like in Buffalo.
I think people of color all over America today are having another reminder that there are people who want to kill them just for existing in their skin.
What is your message for people in the community kind of feeling this hopelessness, feeling this trauma?
What we're trying to do is help people to be more empathetic.
Galen Etlin, KGW News.
This was definitely a surprising thing for these officers to see.
Police say 2 men impersonated police officers, and one of them actually tried to pull over a driver. Officers found out about this while operating a street racing sting on North Marine Drive earlier this month. So police say one of the men involved here was driving a black Dodge Charger with red and blue lights and a police-style push bumper. Police say he tried to pull someone over, but that person didn't stop. Instead, they called police. Inside the car, officers found an airsoft handgun and a fake security badge. They arrested the man and towed his car.
We have no indication that this person was trying to be a vigilante or stop cars because he was frustrated. The suggestion I'm getting is that it was really more of an opportunity for him to try to participate in some of these events without potentially being caught.
That same night, police also stopped this Chevy Caprice we're going to show you right here. It had a police-style spotlight on it. It also had detachable flashing lights. Inside this car, police found an airsoft pistol, a tactical vest, and a gun holster. Police did tow this car away, but they didn't charge the driver with the crime. Well, as the war in Ukraine continues, we want to share the story this afternoon of a local woman who traveled thousands of miles to get her grandmother out of the war-torn country. Last month, Elena Hansen took a flight to Warsaw, Poland, with the goal of bringing her grandmother back to Beaverton. She brought medical supplies for the people in Ukraine, and then she went to the U.S. Embassy in Warsaw to begin the process of getting her grandmother. She says it took several weeks to work through all the red tape, but they finally got their flight here to the U.S.
I'm just really happy that I could get my grandmother to a safe place for her to be able to live out her days, not in a bomb shelter or being worried that she was going to catch on fire.
Well, Hansen tells us that her grandmother is still settling in at this point, and she also told us this is the first time her grandmother has ever been away from Ukraine.